Hello everyone, this is Jacob Taliani coming at you live from wonderful quarantine, and this is another episode of Wednesday Market Update. Let's get into it. And just a quick little side note before we hop into it, I'm going to try and make these a little bit shorter because I like quick news briefs, and I'm sure you do too. So that's all I just want to say. So as you can see, a bunch of people are freaking out about the market, and for good measure. I mean, no one really knows what's going to happen, and I mean, just look at the whole oil thing going on. If you haven't heard any of that, you should check it out because oil futures slumped into the negatives. And people are worried that that's going to happen in the real estate market. I mean, if we look at March's numbers, the average was a slump of 8.5%. And as a result of that inventory, we're seeing a 10% reduction across all the whole country. I mean, 10% on average, right? And with the West Coast being hit the hardest, I'm sure if you are house shopping right now, you've probably seen a home that you really liked getting taken off of the market. And that's partially due because sellers are worried about Corona, which I mean makes sense, or they just think that it's gonna be better to wait till after this whole thing blows over. Now there's something perplexing about this whole thing, and that is that homes are actually still selling, and in fact selling faster than last year. And not only selling faster, but selling with strong offers still. In fact, there was an 8% increase in the median price in comparison to last year. So that is very good news that the market is still going strong. It does seem that the biggest problem in the market is not necessarily people's will to buy right now, because as we can see, there still are people that really want to move, regardless of the situation going on. The biggest problem is going to be securing lending, because as we saw, and what I talked about in the last video, is that lenders are being extra cautious right now, making it a lot harder for an average person to obtain a loan, requiring a much higher credit score, and that due to uncertainty going on right now. So you've got this perplexing situation where there are still people that want to buy regardless of what's going on, but can't exactly acquire the money. So the real people that are going to win out in all this are going to be the ones that can afford to buy in cash, who don't need the assistance of a bank. Now, before you pull out your pitchforks and try and go picket some really rich person's house, I will say this is a perfect opportunity to watch these people in action and to take notes and to prepare for the next time something like this happens, because as much as we'd love to avoid it, it'll always happen. It's just a cycle. At some point there will be a dip in the market for which you can take advantage of next time. Now, our last bit of news will cover something really important that I'm sure you've probably already heard about. One being the $2,000 a month stimulus check, which I won't go into too much detail, but the second one being free rent and mortgage for up to a year. Let's talk about those. And just so you know, this article for the $2,000 stimulus check is on Forbes. Go ahead and look it up if you want more details, but basically it would be turning our normal stimulus thing into a month-to-month thing, increasing it to $2,000 until coronavirus is over. Now for the interesting one, let's go ahead and dig into this free rent bill. This bill would affect the whole country and would include the following: full rent payment forgiveness for your primary residence, full mortgage payment forgiveness for your primary residence, no acclimation of debt from renters or homeowners, no negative impact on their credit rating or rental history. It would establish a relief fund for landlords and mortgage holders to cover losses, and would also create an optional fund to finance the purchase of private rental properties to increase the availability of affordable housing. So as you can see, for renters like the majority of us, it makes sense. Pretty straightforward, no rent. That's great, right? Well, it is, but for landlords, it's a little bit different. The majority of landlords in the US are small landlords, so they own around 6 properties. They're not like these huge multi-million-dollar, let's buy a bazillion condos type people. So how would this affect them? Well, as you saw, there's a little asterisk for receiving these funds, and that is that they wouldn't be able to increase rent for 5 years. Now that could be devastating for these people, especially for 5 years. That's crazy. Now, personally, I'm not a landlord, but I would still feel for these guys. I mean, they worked hard to get these properties, and now all of a sudden, they can't charge what fair market value is. A lot of them might have to end up selling them later as a result. So, in my opinion, I don't think this bill is necessarily gonna pass, but I wouldn't be surprised if they tweaked it and then passed it in a different form. And that's all I've got for you today. Hope you found some interesting stuff, and we're a little bit more educated than you were before you got here. See you next episode. Peace.